Mellow greetings, Engineer Bob here, and today we are finishing off our starting Luna survival. And in this episode, we're going to be completing our little escape vehicle here. Put some references that I was trying to pay homage to in the top corner over there as I began framing out this build. I've done something similar to this in the past, so I kind of had a general idea of how I wanted everything to flow. It's not typically ideal to make large grid ships as small as possible, as the conveyor system tends to eat up a lot of space, especially when you try to make something from another reference that uses a lot of really thin walls and other sci-fi things. Space Engineers just doesn't do that very well, as everything takes up the 2.5 meter cube in these large grids. But I started by framing out the first few of those conveyor junctions, and now I'm just trying to shape some of the frame around. The idea behind this ship is that it's going to be powered by hydrogen fuel. So hydrogen thrusters everywhere, no ion thrusters, no atmospheric thrusters. Those will give me the most bang for my buck. And kind of conforms to an idea that I like, where spaceships have to have a fuel supply that constantly needs to be refueled, and then something else for jump drive. So got batteries and such for jump drive, and then actual hydrogen for the fuel. So kind of limits the range of the vehicles. I kind of like that as my own little sci-fi trope in there. Take that for what it may be. Here I'm kind of working around the conveyor system. A lot of these conveyor junctions that I put in are going to be replaced by cargo containers or something else. Cargo containers tend to have a little bit more durability than just the conveyor junctions, and that also gives the ship a lot more cargo space than just these conveyor junctions themselves. I like placing the junctions down just because I know I can replace them, and I know that they're airtight. That way I get piped all the way through in every direction with those, as opposed to using a tube or something else that might limit my capability to pipe. But we'll see some of that problem solving as I maneuver around the ship here. It's kind of seen in the references. It's got a swooped down wing, which I can't really recreate in large grid. So instead of that, I'll incorporate the fuel tanks and some thrusters into the wing itself. And that way the wing is not just some sort of dead space in there. Gives it a little more purpose, and quite frankly the ship is really small, and it's going to need that extra space being utilized anyways. We just kind of move around the ship and frame up little bits and pieces as it goes. Try to make it look right, and sometimes you have to grind some stuff down and reattach some things just to make things stick while you're working through the initial build phase. It's because some pieces are going to be removed and then reattached or added later. If you've never built with hydrogen thrusters, they do need to be piped all over the place. And the large grid small hydrogen thrusters will do about 2 blocks of damage. So if you build around them with those 2 blocks of damage in mind, then you can actually encapsulate them into things. And they don't even do 2 full blocks. They're a small area inside those full blocks. And you can even kind of conceal them with the help of some of the passageway blocks, or you can do what I plan here and just kind of cover them over with some plate or something. I wanted to give this ship a little bit of attitude with the wing, kind of pay homage to what I was referencing there. That is the Avenger Titan from Star Citizen. It's considered one of the starter ships that you can buy with the game, and a lot of folks do that. I've enjoyed flying it. It's a nice little ship, and it does a little bit of everything, and that's kind of the intent behind this one that I'm building here. Unfortunately, those jump drives are pretty heavy, and those 4 hydrogen thrusters facing down that I made probably aren't going to be enough in all situations. It'll be something I have to fine-tune as I play through it. That or not load it down with cargo. Without the benefit of creative mode, you kind of have to work through the build process one portion at a time. That's why you only see me working on one half of the ship instead of immediately trying to mirror it around. I'm just trying to work the conveyor system through and think ahead a little bit about where I will need to put the hydrogen fuel and the various other things. I usually intend for my ships to run a bunch of acquisition missions or even the search missions. So those ones are non-combat oriented and require a bit of cargo to move around and assemble things. So I'll typically give my ships an assembler and a bit of cargo space just so I can either carry the parts that I need or carry the raw materials so I can build those parts on the spot at whatever trade station I'm going to. That's another intent behind having a small large grid ship, is that with a connector, and I'm planning on putting it here in the front under the nose, but with a connector that's easily located towards one end of the ship, I hope to be able to park this on most stations and have access to the station that way. Otherwise, I always end up having to park off on a weird angle, and then it kind of breaks the realism when I always have to do extra vehicular activity, jetpacking around to get back into the station. So I'm just trying to build that little bit of self-limitation into the design, kind of make the world a little bit more consistent, and that's just little things that I like to do for myself. It's not something that you really have to do or anything like that. It's just a little headcanon I like to try to keep for consistency. It's completely outside the scopes of the sandbox of the game. You're perfectly capable of surviving with your spacesuit, and that's typically what keeps you alive anyways. Here I'm just moving around the ship, trying to add some extra bits and pieces for flair, or make things molded into the body or the wing a bit more. Even though aerodynamic shapes aren't necessary, there are some designs that I really like that can just flow together, and having some of these wing shapes, it just makes it feel more real, and that kind of plays into the headcanon and the design philosophy. It just makes it look like it should exist and function, as opposed to just a series of blocks strung together like the rover I was using. That way this can have not only the first kind of cool where it's got functionality, but also have the second kind of cool where it does look good as well. As I fly around the ship and look at it from different angles, I get a different idea or something else I want to incorporate into the ship, and I'll keep changing it as I go around. After a certain point, you get most of the groundwork put together, so you can see that the conveyor system's been welded up for a while now, and that also helps me weld up other parts of the vehicle. As I keep needing to grab parts, I can just pull items through either one of the cargo containers or the hydrogen tanks on the sides. Anything with a functional port will allow me to grab and pull materials. That way I don't have to constantly be running back over to the installation that I'm building from. The ship is built off of a stock that's coming from my main base there, and that stock is actually created out of conveyor tubes. after I get all of those conveyor tubes all welded up, I will be able to pull materials throughout this ship, because right now they're the same grid. There's no connectors connecting them at the moment. If you have connectors connecting, sometimes the build planner will be a bit of a pain in the butt and not want to draw things through the connector. That forces you to have to open up the menu and tell your build planner to manually withdraw from whatever inventory spaces might exist. If I just keep it on this stock as it's all one grid, just makes it a little bit easier to work with as I try to pull things through on it. The front of the ship, really the whole ship design on the underside is kind of weird. Apparently the Avenger Titan has the nickname of Penguin ship because it's kind of how it looks. It's usually black and white, and the belly of it is black there, and if you look at it from the side, it's got this distinct little belly for the belly of the ship, and then the front there kind of curves up and down, which I'm trying to imitate here. The actual ship isn't nearly as big as this one's going to be, so it's kind of hard to keep the detail and the realism in there. Later on, I would go to remodel the ship a little bit more, and that may or may not have been because it encountered an accident on its first refueling run. That's where I was saying the hydrogen thrusters may not be enough, because I had filled up the cargo full of ice along with the 5 drills that I can have on the server, and it was a bit too much for the thrusters to carry. That and the server was lagging a bit, so that didn't help a whole lot. There's the inside of the ship. Polish it off a little bit. Enter the cockpit from there. It's all plumbed up. Small kitchen and bedroom. Assembler gives you access to cargo, as does the cargo container here. It's all plumbed up and pressurized, so it's quite livable in here. A little bit of cargo area down here. The bathroom and shower, and a little bit of a trickery on the game here. This little curved window block actually is airtight, even though you can look right through it and walk right through it. So there is no door on here. You just walk out, and it's how you stay pressurized. Saves me 125 PCU on that. I've got a couple of Gatling guns underslung on the wings there. I've got the little assault turret on top. And I lengthened the nose a bit on there, just so I can get this little dip more pronounced under the body. I think it's a little bigger than what it needs to be. I think there could be a little bit more improvement on the shape, but overall I'm fairly happy with it. There's always room for improvement, and that's what I've got here for it. I'm going to pack these back. I'm actually going to set them all to share, so if anyone does come by here, they can always utilize this if they want. Usually when players come across things, they will take all the resources they need. And then I also wanted to put a little habitation unit over here to give a little bit more lore. But that's what I have for these points of interest at the moment. Just wanted to share with everyone, see what the final products look like. Just wanted to show those off as the POI and hope others can enjoy it too. So until next time, go forth and build great things.